I was thinking about people who look up to other people. I have an acquaintance who I was told was going to see some famous motivational expert. And I know that this person is sort of into that kind of motivational expert thing. And, okay, motivational experts. I guess they have some good things to say. But then something came over me, like a vision. And the vision was that I see this vast audience of people, like in a theater, with their eyes wide open, staring up onto the stage, waiting for the magician or the hypnotist to speak some magic words so that they can wake up from whatever sleep they're in. And when that vision unfolded in my mind, I had a wave of emotion, a sadness, and I started to cry. I wept very hard because I realized that that is the world that we live in. We live in a sort of semi-hypnotic sleep. And that's why people are constantly looking for outside influences to change their lives. Now, if you listen to this program, you're looking for an outside influence to influence you on the inside. Fair enough. It's a good idea. But there are things that you hear when you're ready that only you need to hear one time. Just one time. And your whole life changes. And so I want to talk about that tonight. Living in the moment, being open and available to insight from outside sources, but also from the inward source, the inner self, the inner vision. For thousands of years, people looked to visionaries. The Jewish people had visionaries. And throughout different cultures, they had their people who spoke with God. Now, why is it, though, that in this day and age, we still have those people, the soothsayers and the magicians and the magic makers and the politicians and the motivational experts? Why do we need them? Maybe the thoughts that you have come to you from some influence that you weren't aware of at a certain point in your life and have stayed with you. I had a very, very powerful vision a few days ago. And I was thinking about a person I know that goes to see all these motivational speakers and was looking for that thing, that whatever it is that somebody says that sparks the fire inside. And as I was contemplating that idea, I had a vision. And the vision was it was a huge theater full of people, kind of like an indoor theater. And I saw all these eyes, bright and wide and open, and everybody was waiting for the magician or the hypnotist to say some magic words so they could wake up from whatever spell they're in. And it hit me really hard, and I felt a lot of emotion. But I believe that I wept for the world and for the people in the world who are asleep and who keep thinking that there's somebody in the world that has some magic set of words that they're going to say that's going to make everything okay. And really, it's not what people say or don't say. If we want to get right down to the bottom line of it, it is something in you as the receiver of that idea that changes everything about your world. And the question then is, what is that? What is that component of you that is able to hear something in that moment, even if it's not even directed toward you? But there's some ability that you have to hear the thing that you, deep down inside, you know that when you hear it, it makes perfect sense and it has some kind of activating effect upon you. There's something in your soul, down in the very depths of your being. And I believe that that's a homing signal, just like a homing pigeon has a homing instinct to go fly back and forth between places where it's been before. I believe that every human being potentially has a homing instinct and waits for that to be activated by a discovery of something about themselves. Now, some people do not find it. Many people never find it, ever. And they can look, and they can go to, to the Himalayas, and they can go on in sweat lodges, and they can do all the things that everybody classically does who's on a spirit quest. And still, whatever it is they're looking for, because you don't know what you're looking for. So it eludes you. So I'm talking to it right now. I'm talking to what it is that you need to discover within yourself, that thing that's in you already, whatever it is, a beacon or a homing device, something that activates in you, that sets you on your own journey. Do you know what worry is?
It's a lack of trust in God.
No, it's faith in a negative outcome. It's a reverse form of faith. Yes, it is. It's actually a lack of trust in God, and at the same time, it is a belief that something terrible is going to happen, and that is always a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe terrible things will happen, terrible things will happen. But just on the reverse side of that, just because you believe good things will happen, doesn't mean they will happen. So there's sort of a conundrum for people who are positive thinkers. I would say it's better to have a positive attitude than to have a negative attitude. But what is a real positive attitude? What does that mean? What does it mean to have a positive attitude? Talk about that if you want, because having the right kind of positive attitude is very different than having the wrong kind of positive attitude. Like, for example, people that play the lottery. I'm going to win. I'm going to win. I'm the one. It's going to be tonight. I'm going to win that jackpot. And then, you find out you don't win. Oh, I didn't win. I didn't win again. I'm going to win next time. That's the card player, the people that gamble. They keep going back because they know that there's going to be a jackpot. That's a sort of enthusiasm, but it's very misplaced. Because gambling is gambling. I mean, the odds are against you. It's just the way everything is rigged. Having a right attitude is, you know what? I'm just going to go step by step through my day, every day of my life. And then as I go, I'll see what comes at me. And if you could do that, you can be anyone and you can do anything. But if you can't do that, you can't be anyone and you cannot be anything. You have problems. We need to talk about them. But I will ask you one thing. When you call, please go directly to your point. So I'm going to talk to Sue in Illinois. Sue says she wants to get off of disability, so let's see what Sue has to say. Welcome, Sue.
Hi, Dave. Yeah, I'm in a nursing home right now. I want to get off disability. I'm 64.
Okay.
And,
what's your disability? First, let me ask that.
Bipolar.
Okay, so it's basically emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's a movie that was out a couple years ago about a man who went out rock climbing all by himself. And he got into a very dangerous and deadly situation where he got stuck and his arm was crushed and he was hanging, in a crevasse. And so he knew that no one was going to find him hanging, out there on this rock out in the middle of nowhere. So he starts to cut his own arm off. And I think it takes him about 18 or more hours. I don't remember how actually long it took for him, but he actually cut his arm off with his pocket knife. Now, see, he was a person that was determined to live. And I have so much respect for a person like that. To do something so difficult as to cut your own arm off so that you could live another day. A lot of people would just give up and say, I'm going to die, and then they would just wait until they died, and then they would be dead. Not this guy. So the question is, what's wrong with your vision that you don't see you have this life to live? And I know because you've called the show many times, and I remember not so long ago I talked to you about the quicksand. All the guilt and all the fear and all the anger, it's all like quicksand. You don't have it. It has you. But every time I tell you, and every time you talk to my dad, we give you the right information, why doesn't it go into the right processing center? What's the matter with your processing center? Sue or Ann or whatever your name is, what's the matter with your processing? Do you not hear what we're saying? Or do you hear it and just you can't do anything about it?
Yeah, I can't do anything about it. Family stuff, too.
I know, but that's an excuse. How much do you want to live? That's the question. Because your time is running out. How much do you want to live? And let's just say for the sake of this discussion that you said, I'm not even going to worry ever again about my family. No matter what's going on, it's not worth it to me. It's sucking the life out of me. So I'm going to let my family go and forget about them as if they didn't exist. Now you're just with yourself. Now what's your excuse? What's your excuse now?
Right. You're right.
So do you really have an excuse, or is it just that you really don't want to change any of this? Because you could change it. If a man could cut his own arm off to survive another day, you can imagine how what that's like to cut your arm off?
Right.
Think about that. He wanted to live. He's still alive. He goes around talking to people about motivation, the motivation to live. So I think, you need to just drop those excuses like a bag of bricks. You're just dragging them around with you, and it's killing you. It's killing everyone. People that make excuses are dying. Every time they make an excuse, they get closer and closer to death. Excuses, excuses, excuses. You know, we don't like the way that people act in our government. And when they get caught, what do? They make excuses, and they don't own up to the things that they should own up to. Yes, I'm angry, is what you should say. But I don't want to be any longer. God help me. And you ask God. God will hear you. Unless, of course, you don't believe that.
I do.
All right, then you don't need me. You don't need me anymore. That's it. How much do you want to live? That's the question. Are you willing to cut off a toe, a foot, or an arm? I bet not, a lot of you. No, it takes courage to live. It does. Living is not for everybody.